song. Please stay lay song. Lay song. Christ lay song. Lay song. Jesus, remember me when I come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when I come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember us when we come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember us when we come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember us when we come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember us when we come into your kingdom. We come together today during a time of mourning and reflection. We acknowledge the cave in our own hearts. We set aside a quiet time and space today, and we reflect upon that we are physical beings who will go back to dust when this life has ended, but we continue. So let us reflect on our own mortality. Let us take a deep breath in, hold it, and a longer exhalation. Let us take another deep breath in and hold it, and a longer exhalation. Another deep breath in hold it, and an even longer exhalation. As we enter into our quiet stillness, our own internal cave, recognizing this time of being in the tomb of our own lives, with always the choice, the chance for healing and resurrection in our own lives, and the potential for that residing within us at all times. And let us set ourselves in a place where we will not be disturbed. Welcome. During this time today, we reflect upon Jesus in the tomb, which is like a womb where his friends and his mother, those who loved him the most, are in grief and mourning. And the thing that they want most is for him to come back. These are the times that test our faith in our own lives. These are the times when the potential to lose hope and to cave into despair are greatest. But these times hold within them the greatest potential for complete and total transformation, complete and total healing, both for ourselves and for all of humanity. Let us hold in our hearts today during this service those who are suffering. Let us pray for their healing and salvation. Let us pray for those who are mourning, that God may comfort them. Let us pray for those who feel lost and afraid, to find a sense of home and comfort and support within them and around them. And let us take a moment, reflect on our own lives, our own darkness, the things that bring us to a place of feeling isolated and alone, those things that bring us to a place of despair, and let them rest in our own inner tomb, awaiting salvation, awaiting the miracle of resurrection and complete and total transformation. And we open up this space and we open up our hearts to be present here together as we recognize that on this day, many, many people around the world are taking time to reflect on their own lives and how their lives are significant to the entirety of humanity. Let me show you a symbol of our own resurrection. with a butterfly that goes into a time of cocooning to reemerge as a beautiful butterfly. Over the past 2 days, we've followed the story of Christ the mystic, Christ the teacher, Christ who recognized that there's so much that we don't know, but that he taught us so much of what is possible if we simply open our eyes to see and open our hearts to feel and open our spiritual ears to hear. I'm going to start with a little music. Feel free to close your eyes. Feel free to take this time to make your breathing more present, more conscious, more relaxed, and enter into the stillness. During the time after Jesus' crucifixion, the women were the ones who tended to his body and who wrapped his body in cloth. And interestingly enough, the story of Christ's birth, it's noted that he was wrapped in swaddling clothes and laid in a manger. And at his death, the women came and they poured holy oil on his body, and they massaged his body, and they used expensive perfume on his body. They gave him a burial that was fit for the king that he was. They wrapped him in cloth, and they laid him in a tomb, and they said goodbye. They were mourning. They were in grief. This beautiful being who had taught them so much, who had walked and lived like the embodiment of love. A love that was not weak, for love, true love, is not weak. A love that is the strongest force in the entire universe. a love, a divine love that lives within each and every one of us. His life was an example that not one of us is above the other, that we walk this earth as equals, and that nothing is more harmful to us as individuals than to believe and think that we need to be divided. When Jesus washed the feet of his disciples and Simon Peter protested, insisting that Jesus held a higher position, was higher on the ladder of where Peter was, and Jesus was not having it. Jesus was not going to leave it there with Peter believing that Jesus was above him. And he yelled at Peter, and he said, "I am not above you. Allow me to wash your feet." And Peter responded, "For that matter, Jesus, you can wash my hands too, my arms." It is knowing that we are all equal. It is in that knowing that we have eternal salvation. And it was the ignorance of men and the fear of men who walked the earth during Jesus' time that caused him to be crucified. They were not ready to hear it. But the truth is eternal, and the truth cannot be destroyed, and truth cannot be hidden. Others may try, and others may masquerade themselves as great teachers, but it is the truth that shall be revealed, and that truth shall set us all free. Love is all that is real. Love is the answer. We are here to help one another, and we are here to serve one another, and when we serve one another, that is true, eternal joy. So during this time when we reflect on Mary Magdalene, Jesus' mother Mary, and all the women that surrounded Jesus that we hear so little about, unfortunately. The women tended to the spiritual aspects. The women used the spiritual tools. And the women literally set the tomb and made it ready, much like the woman makes her womb ready for a child. Because Christ was going back into a tomb and a womb in order to become a new life, a brand new life. And it is a profound depiction of what we are here to experience. Let us reflect on our own inner deaths. Let us reflect on that which needs to be put away, put to rest, so that we may rise up and be resurrected ourselves, so that we may have life renewed. We may experience a complete and total transformation where it is necessary in our own lives, as Jesus did. It was necessary for him to show us that a complete transformation is possible. A complete and total healing in the form of healing from death is possible. He knew that Thomas needed to see it to believe it. And And after Thomas saw Jesus back in the flesh, resurrected, with an aura of light shining from him, Thomas finally believed. And we must remember that after all that, what Jesus said to Thomas was, pretty good, you saw and you believe now. But blessed are those who have not seen, yet still believe. Today I want to take us into a journey, into a meditation journey, so that we may reflect on what we are ready to put to rest. Perhaps there's a forgiveness that you know in your heart that you have held for perhaps too long when you think about it. Perhaps there are forgivenesses of your own self that you've thought about but haven't been able to come to it. Let us take this opportunity to lay the darkness that is in our hearts, to lay it to rest, and to transmute it to love. Behind me, I have a depiction of the tomb, and underneath the black cloth and the gold, there's a light. A light that never goes out. And our lights will be brighter, and our lives will be more impactful, and we will be more present in our lives, and we will not fall victim to the low vibrational energies of hatred and vitriol. When we receive more light, which we receive through our own personal resurrections. So before we go into a meditation time, I'm going to give you an opportunity to make sure you make your space ready. Prepare your space by ensuring that you won't be interrupted. So let us close our eyes. Let us take this opportunity to link up with those who are praying around the world. There are billions of people that acknowledge this sacred season on the Christian calendar. Everybody is welcome here. These are universal spiritual stories and messages that resonate with all of us. So closing your eyes, take a deep breath in, hold it, and a long exhalation. And as you are breathing deeply and slowly, let us reflect on the sanctity of life. Let us settle in to the stillness. Let us remind ourselves that peace is always available, that the peace that surpasses all understanding is forever present. And let us meet that peace in the stillness right now. And let us pray. Dear God, divine intelligence, the Christ, the Divine Mother, we ask that you be present here and make your presence known to us. Remind us that in the stillness lie the answers. Remind us in our lives that when we least feel like it, when we feel most frantic, those are the times that we most need to come to the stillness, to enter into the cave for healing. We feel the vibrational frequencies of so many on the planet today, and contemplative prayer and reflection, many reflecting on what the Christ story means to them, feeling profoundly shifted and affected by the Christ story, which mirrors the stories in our own lives of suffering and persecution. Dear God, please allow us to see our way, to feel the light, to know the light that guides us through our dark nights. Dear God, we know your hand clasps ours. Remind us that when we feel anxious, when we are panicking, those are signs that we have lost our connection. And help us moving forward to come back to the stillness, to the peace, where we will feel safe and we will feel the assurance in knowing that we are always guided and we are never alone. And dear God, together today, we want to reflect upon our own crucifixions in our lives. We understand that within our own crucifixions in our lives, there is the most important message and learning. And we give up any idea of victimhood. We give up ideas of martyrdom. And mostly, dear God, we give up the ideas that we must continue to drag these grievances and these hurts and these crucifixions and suffering with us from now till the end. We know step by step, with your help, with our faith, that we can begin to free ourselves from all those we have been unable to forgive right now. We recognize that forgiveness means release. And show us, dear God, that forgiveness brings more peace. And peace is the way. And it's safe to let go. And as we release those we need to forgive, we feel a space open up in our hearts. And if you like right now, you can put your hand over your heart as if to fill that empty space where your heartache has left you. Feel yourself in a tomb, in the darkness, in the cave, in the stillness, where your heart is healing. You can bring your hand down if you like. Or you can keep your heart covered with your hand until you feel like you want to release it. Dear God, please show us that it is safe for us to let go. Show us the traumas that need to be healed. And help us to know that they are healed. And during this holy week, we pause and we reflect on where we would like to put more time and focus on the spiritual beings that we are. Show us space that we can enter into our schedules where we're rushing to and fro all the time and we're overthinking. Show us space in our lives and give us the inspiration to know that those spaces don't need to be filled with more stuff. That during the stillness, when it feels like nothing is happening, perhaps, help us to resist the temptation to believe that nothing is happening, for that is when we join with you, dear God. That is when you communicate with us silently. That is where the space serves us and the world. Give us the courage to enter into it. And now I ask you to bring your focus to the sensation of the breath as it moves in and out. And I want us all to reflect on a spiritual saying from the Eastern religions, which Jesus was all about. Constantly remember death. May we constantly remember that this physical existence will come to an end. And let us pray that our earthly time here is spent in service and in love to the best of our ability. And let us keep our minds and our hearts open to bring in more good and more love than we ever could imagine is possible. Let's hold a space for it to be possible. Let us ask God to heal our limited thinking that keeps us imprisoned in things that we don't want. Help us to think about the good, the love, and the healing that is always available, and the transformation that is always possible. And let us just take a few moments of silence so that we may tune in to all the prayers, all the meditations, and all the intentions for healing the world that are happening today. Let's take a few moments of silence. And now let us bring to mind those in our lives that we know need healing and need support and need our prayers. And before we end this meditation prayer time, let us make a promise to ourselves that we will walk a path that's more conscious, more aware, more fully present, and much more open to giving and receiving love, knowing that our lives matter to the entire collective, and that there is a time for being in the cave, and then there is a time for the resurrection, and may we not miss our own personal resurrections. And so it is. Take your time. Slowly, slowly. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes, and I'll play a little bit more music. This is a hymn called Holy Ground. In the tomb where Christ was buried, as the Christ story goes, he was in the tomb and there started to be some energy moving in that tomb. And the very place where he was buried was sacred ground. This is called Holy Ground. Tomorrow morning, it will be Easter, and we celebrate the resurrection. And we're going to close with this little hymn called Joy in the Morning. And then I'll meet you at sunrise around 6:30 Eastern time for a short service. And then later we'll have our regularly scheduled Easter Sunday service at 1 Eastern time. There'll be joy in the morning on that day. There'll be joy in the morning on that day. For the daylight will dawn when the darkness is gone. There'll be joy in the morning on that day. There'll be peace and contentment evermore. There'll be peace and contentment evermore. Every heart, every voice on that day will rejoice. There'll be peace and contentment evermore. There'll be love and forgiveness everywhere. There'll be love and forgiveness everywhere. And the way of the Lord will that day be restored. There'll be love and forgiveness everywhere. And the way of the Lord will that day be restored. There'll be love and forgiveness everywhere. Let us be grateful for this life, this precious gift of life that we have. Let us not squander it. And may we all experience our own personal journeys within the cave, into the darkness, where we learn and we receive and we create a new life for us and for all. Thank you so much for joining me on this very important journey, this time of spiritual transformation. It's an opportunity for all of us to transform. And I'll see you tomorrow. Happy almost Easter. Namaste.